My name's Kathleen Casper, and I'm a teacher with the Tacoma Public Schools, and I teach in the Highly Capable program. And what I wanted to talk about with respect to paid sick leave is that it doesn't just affect the adults in the situation. I have kids in my classes who get sick, and when they're sick, we send them down to the nurse's office and they call home. And oftentimes, first of all, a lot of the kids can't reach their parents because their parents are at work. And sometimes the parents will finally call us back and let us know that they're on their way to come get their child. And then they'll run into problems at work where they're not really allowed to leave. And so when they tell us that, and then the child gets excited because they're thinking they're finally going to get to go home and be in their bed and be sick where they're comfortable, they end up having to wait for hours at the school until their parents are allowed to come and get them. And I have a lot of students that when they're sick, they just know they're not going to get picked up because their parents can't afford to miss work. And that, they've missed work before and the parents have gotten in trouble. And so they end up needing to stay at the school in the nurse's office for extended periods of time when they're sick. Or sometimes I have to have them just lay down in the classroom because they don't feel well. So we have kids that are sick that can't leave the school, so then other kids get exposed to their germs and then they get sick. And a lot of times those kids can't go home either, so we end up with a lot of kids that we have to try and keep as comfortable as possible at the school because their parents can't leave. And it's hard when they're little kids and they're crying because they want to go home. And as a parent, I know that when my kids are sick, I want to be there with them, and that it must be really hard for those parents that they have to continue to work and their mind is probably on their child who's sick at school. So it'd be really helpful to the parents to have that sense of peace of being able to go and pick up their children when they're sick or keep them home in the first place. And it'd also be good for those kids that really are impacted by this. And I think it would help the kids' education as well, so they can focus on learning and not worry about whether their parent's going to get in trouble at work if they get sick. Be a great thing. So sometimes we'll have kids that get sick, and like I had one child, a little girl who had a very bad stomach ache, was throwing up, not able to really function in the classroom, and we didn't want to have her in the classroom because she was exposing other kids to being sick. And so I sent her down to the nurse's office, and they called me and said she was going to be going home and to send her stuff down to the office. And so we sent down her bag and all of her things, and I figured she'd be going home and that would be it for the day. And then later, when we were all leaving to go to lunch, she's still in the nurse's office. And so I felt really bad for her because she'd been very sick and she's sleeping in the nurse's office. And I went in and said, well, is she going to be going home? Well, her mom said that she's going to be on her way. And then, I came back towards the end of the day again when I had a break, and she's still in there. And, she was in tears because she really wanted to go home and her parents couldn't come and get her. And so the secretary kept saying, parents are supposed to come. And by the end of the day, we just had to put her on the bus and send her to where she needed to go after school because there was nowhere for her to go otherwise, and nobody had come to pick her up. And when I found out later that the parent had tried to get out of her work, the mother tried to get out and come and pick her up, but she wasn't able to because her work said that she couldn't leave till the end of her shift. And so she was stuck, and she was really worried about her child, and luckily her child was able to go home, and we had the bus transportation to take her there, but it would have been a better situation for that child to be picked up and have a comfortable place at home to be in her own home when she was sick. So when you see examples like that over and over again, it's just really sad, and it really does impact the learning of the other kids as well because they get exposed to germs that maybe didn't need to be at school in the first place. So it's tough on the kids.